Hello and welcome to the final part of my sprint video for the final sprint. In this I will be covering all of the managers and wrapping up anything else that I might have missed before. To start this off, I will discuss the Wave Manager. The Wave Manager is a singleton with a wave queue that is created upon instantiation. It keeps track of the waves for an individual player and swaps things out and keeps track of things accordingly. On instantiation, it will generate a new field, randomize its seed, and set the player to alive. It will then proceed to generate waves. It will open up a file and read through that file. The reading through, as you had requested before, has been changed. While it reads through, it will check the name and the information of the two things as separated by a space. It will check the name of the name and assign it to the proper thing. If it is a wave, it will create a new wave data to add to the wave queue, to the main wave queue. And then it will track the wave number. So it'll keep track of what wave that is. Then it will go through and read. You can remove things, and that will just, it has it will not affect it too much if you start removing things from it. After that's done, it will copy all the wave queues into the player 1, player 2, and AI wave queues. And then it will set the current waves and the front waves of each of the queues. So then, on the beginning of a wave, set player alive to true, start the scorpion and spider spawning, and then spawn one instance of the centipede as determined by whatever the wave determines its points to be. And then it will also start the centipede sound. So, let's take a look. So down here in the scorpion section, we have the set scorpion spawn rate, where it grabs from the current wave what the spawn rate is supposed to be, and will set the first alarm, or alarm 1. Alarm 0 is technically the first alarm. It'll set alarm 1 to go off at a random point in time in between the spawn rate. When the alarm goes off, it will randomly decide which side of the screen it'll spawn it on, and then it will spawn it on that side with all the necessary things, where it'll call this the factory, and the scorpion will determine which direction it needs to go in. Here is the marking and demarking of the scorpion, where it just decides. It will set the current instance of the scorpion to the scorpion that it just created, or it will reduce it to a null pointer, indicating that there is nothing there. Scrolling all the way back up to the top. Spider is extremely similar, except this one tells you the direction, informs the spider of which direction it should be going in. This is the alarm. Alarm 0 is for the spider. Set spider spawn rate sets the alarm. Marking and demarking the spider is the same as scorpion. Scrolling back up, spawning the centipede is simply calling the head factory to create a centipede at this location with the length of whatever the wave decided the length is supposed to be. Alright, so that is the beginning of the wave. Now, actually, just moving back down to the centipede, let's look at all the centipede controls. So, in addition, this, unlike the other components, the flea, the scorpion, and the spider, the centipede is kept track of in a list. Visible. Apologies, I seem to have lost the... here it is. Standard in a standard list, centipede body list. So instead of the other things where there is only ever one scorpion or one centipede, this will look and see, is there one like how many are there? How many centipede bodies are there? How many centipede parts are there? And when it is shot, it will check to make sure that the list isn't empty. If the list is empty, that signifies the end of the round, and it'll stop playing the centipede sound. If the instance, that is, if the player is still alive. So alarm number 2 is the beginning of a new round. So that is located. Alarm 2 starts the next wave. So that's all that it does. It says to start the next wave. Yes. But what it does is it will retrieve the next wave first. So you can see, yes. If the player's alive, it will start the next, it'll get the next wave, then it will start the wave again. So next wave checks who is playing right now, and then it will pop their queue and set the current wave to whatever that queue is now. Very simple little thing, just checks it and sets it. Resetting the wave occurs on player death. That is when the wave manager will tell the field to repair itself. That is when the player alive will be set to false, and all creatures will be destroyed. All creatures are destroyed and then reset, and the instance alarm is reset. With the player simply being put back in the blaster being moved back to its original position, and then whether or not it is swapped back to AI is determined by the player. So that is all the functionality of the Wave Manager. Now onto the Sound Manager. So to start the Sound Manager off, first I will look at the Sound Controller. Sound Controller, virtual class, doesn't do anything. This is another implementation of the strategy pattern. So the initial Sound Controller has nothing inside of it. It will not play anything. The live Sound Controller simply has all of the sounds and will play those sounds. It initializes it when you create it, and it will go down and simply say whether or not you should be playing the sound or not. So there is different functions for starting the sound and stopping the sound. And in most cases, like the scorpion and the spider, it's very simple. Like it's an on or off switch. It is setting the loop to true or stopping the sound. Setting the loop to true and playing the sound, or stopping the sound. With the centipede, it it will check whether or not the centipede is already present, and if it is, then it will not repeat the sound, and if it is not, then it will not repeat the sound. This was because back in the initial creation, the centipede would play a lot. It would create a new sound every time a centipede body part was created. So I fixed that by implementing a check to make sure that it didn't repeat itself. So that's its loop to make sure that the sound doesn't go overboard. Now then, the sound manager itself covers, it's a singleton, and you simply call it and you tell it what sound you'd like it to play, and then it will call its controller, which it has 3 controllers: the live controller, the mute controller, and the current controller. And it will ask the controllers whether or not it should be playing right now, or not whether or not it should be playing. It will do whatever it will run the controller's noise. It'll run the controller's functions, which you can see here. Here is, so it is instantiated. It'll create a virtual sound controller so that nothing happens, and then a live sound controller so that stuff will happen with the live controller. The current controller is set to mute, and down here you have the switches, where when it's player 1 or player 2, it will first of all kill the sounds. So if there is anything playing at the moment, it'll say stop what you're playing, and then it will set the new controller. Whoops. With the computer, it will set it to the mute controller so that nothing's played, and if you entered some junk data, it will ignore it. Kill sound simply tells the 3 repeating sounds to stop playing. As you can see, it's simply calling its controllers functions, and so under the generic sound controller, nothing will play. Under the live sound controller, things will play. Very, very basic. Finally, we have the score manager. Score manager keeps track of the player score, player 2 score, and the high score. AI score is also there as well, but the AI score does not change and is not shown. So this is also a singleton. There are a bunch of different inputs for it, but there is only one there's only a very few actual behind the scenes functions, and it simply does this dependent upon the scores that are set here. So it keeps it all in house. Nobody else touches what this singleton is doing. So the singleton, so as you can see here, it'll add points. There's only one add point, but it's simply whose points are being added that matters. And so the people who are calling this will never see an integer. They will never know what it is doing. So that is reflected. You can see here the switch. It will switch between player 1, player 2, and the AI, which score it's keeping track of and editing. And it is keeping track of, and here's the add points, where it's simply adding however many points it's told to add. And then here's the get score, which returns the scores of 3 relevant players. And one moment. Alright, so lastly I wanted to just show the first scene, the scene where things are actually initialized and things happen. just to demonstrate how all of that is, how all of that looks. So there's the collisions and the managers being started up and relevant pieces being created. There's the critter spawner, which was never implemented. It's what eventually became the wave controller. I just incorporated all aspects of the critter spawner into the wave controller for sake of convenience. But that is all. That is that is all the code that I have written for this program. It's been fun. It's been a fun class. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next semester. Have a good day.